Hello. In this video, I'm going to show you how to automate signing into a Microsoft account, even if you have two-factor authentication enabled. So let's say that the website that you want to sign into is this one here. It's the our own Zoom account. If I access the website, you will see that it's going to ask me to sign in with my Microsoft account. Okay, and what I want to do is automate this whole flow. So the robot is going to type in my username, is going to type in my password, and if I have two-factor authentication enabled, it's going to generate a code, an authentication code, and put it in. Now I've already built this this flow here, and I will actually show it to you running for the first time, and then we're going to go and see what it does. So I hit the debug button in Studio, and now the automation started running. You will see that it will open up Chrome. It will go to the URL that I mentioned before. The Microsoft sign-in page is popping up. It's going to put in my email address. It's going to put in my password, and then it's going to generate a authorization code and sign me in. And now, as you can see, I'm signed in into my Zoom account. Now, if I go, there's multiple sub cases. For example, if I go here and I sign out from Zoom, I'm signed out from Zoom, but not from my Microsoft account. So now if I run it again, you will see that it will open up Zoom. It won't be signed in. And then it will go through the same sequence, but this time it won't have to put in all the details as before. Okay, so now it goes to login.microsoft.com. Now it has my account, so it's just going to click it, select it. It's going to put in my password. And because in the previous step I told it to remember the authorization code, it's not going to ask for that code again. And the automation runs just fine. And now if I just stay signed in and I hit again run, it will identify the fact that I'm already signed in and not go through the sign-in sequence at all. Okay, let's see this case as well. Loads up my my account. It logged me in automatically, and now it's done. Okay, good. So the question is, how do you achieve this this flexibility, if you want? For that, I've built this this automation using UiPath Studio, and let's see what it does. The first step is to get the account credentials. So this is where I'm getting my email and my password. I have them stored as a credential in Orchestrator. Then it's going to get a two-factor authentication secret key. Okay, and I will tell you in a second what does that mean, and that's this secret key is actually being used to generate a code so that I can put it into my my sign-in flow, right? Once it got those two assets from Orchestrator, in parallel, is going to do two things. One is invoke the sign-in sequence, and the sign-in sequence, we're going to look at it in a second. It's what it does is that it listens to various UI elements to show up, and as they show up, it takes various decisions. And then in parallel with this, it actually opens the Zoom page and waits for the profile icon to pop up. And the second it pops up, it waits for 60 seconds. And the second it pops up, it said, okay, now I'm signed in, we're all good. Okay, and that's it. What does this variable do? Sign in equals true. Actually, in the parallel block here, I have a condition. The condition, what it does is that if any of the parallel sequences here, whenever this signed in variable is set to true, the parallel block is going to exit. Otherwise, it's going to continue executing until all of the threads are finished. And the sign-in thread is not finishing basically ever. It's just going to continue monitoring for those sign-in elements to interact with them. And the reason it was built this way is that you actually don't know when the sign-in is completed in this particular scenario, right? So let's open the sign-in workflow and see what it does. The sign-in workflow, it actually listens. There's a trigger scope here. Okay, so it waits for certain UI elements to appear. For example, the pick an account UI element, whenever I pick my account, this is what was triggered. There's the sign-in screen, enter password, enter code, and then there's some error cases as well. For example, if I have an incorrect username, I'm monitoring for that particular message, or maybe I have an incorrect password, or maybe the code was entered incorrectly. And all of these things, what they are element state change triggers that I have added. I changed the name of the activity here because you will see later on when these things fire, we actually have a switch here. So we're trying to understand what case are we on. And then the label here for each case is actually matching the trigger name, and the trigger name is the name of the activity itself. Okay, and this is how the matching is being done. So let me pick up a couple of examples. Sign in. Whenever I'm on the sign in screen, what happens is that we're attaching to that screen, and then I'm typing in the email into the email box, and then I click the submit button, okay, which is go to the next step. And on the next step, you know, we're going to have other UI elements show up, and as other UI elements show up, other triggers are going to fire, and we're going to go through other code paths here. For example, let's say afterwards I have my my code that I need to enter, and this is where we're going into the two-factor authentication scenario. Okay, so if I need to enter that code, how do I do it? Well, I told you that I have a secret key here that is being passed in as an input argument. It's a secure string. And with that secret key, what I'm doing is I'm actually using an activity that comes from the UiPath marketplace. It's this one here, UiPath team.two-step authentication activities. And this activity, what it does is that starting from a secret key, it actually generates a code that I can then type into. And this is how two-factor authentication works, right? You have a secret key and the current date and time on the computer where it runs. A code is generated, and then the code is being entered into the target application. So I'm literally typing in that code, and then I'm checking the don't ask me again for 30 days box, and then again I click on submit. So it's as simple as that if you want. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is about that secret. Where do you get the secret from? And to do that, what you can do is you can go to myaccount.microsoft.com, and this is for Microsoft account. Obviously, if you're using something else, Google, you know, there's similar ways of doing that. But for a Microsoft account, this is how you do it. You go to myaccount.microsoft.com, and here under once you sign in, under security info. Okay, it loads. Under security info, you have multiple ways of signing in. I can verify my password using my phone, using the Microsoft Authenticator, using an email address, right? And what you want to do is add a new sign-in method. So once you do that, you can choose a method, and it's going to be Authenticator app. This is how, this is what we're going to emulate. And then you just say, I want to use a different Authenticator app, okay? Not the default Microsoft Authenticator, right? And then you hit next. And you can actually add this to an Authenticator app. I use the Google Authenticator in mine. But remember, now what you need to do is count scan image, and now you have this secret key. And this secret key is the key that you actually need in order to that you would put in an asset in Orchestrator, and then you would use to generate the code at runtime, right? So I'm not going to do that. So this secret key is actually not going to work on my account. I think that's it. I will also post the code into on GitHub for visibility. And the sign-in XAML is really, you know, a generic sign-in workflow that works with Microsoft in this particular case. One could easily build the exact same thing for a Google authentication, for Facebook Authenticator, for Apple IDs, and so on, right? So you might have multiple such such ways of treating various use cases. In my case, it's just using Microsoft. It is English language based. So the selectors that are generated are actually taking into account the labels, because I couldn't find any more reliable ways of doing it. So it has to be, the sign-in screen has to be in English, and it has to be in Chrome. Okay. Obviously, this is just a POC, it's not really production code. I was just trying to showcase how you would build such an experience using UiPath, and also using two-factor authentication. And with that, thank you so much.